Hi, my name is Angela Harney. I'm a Snowflake data superhero, and I'm here tonight with the Snowflake Seattle user group to welcome DataOps.live as our Snowflake partner spotlight. Keith Belanger from DataOps.live is here to show us how to do CI/CD in Snowflake using their dynamic delivery tool.
Again, my name is Keith Belanger, and I'll give you a little bit more history about myself in just a bit. Let me share my screen. So today, what I am going to do is I am going to talk a little about what is DataOps, what is DataOps Live, and then I'll go into the demonstration of the solution. So let me share my screen with everybody. Share. All right. Can you see my screen? It says from chaos to AI ready.
Yep, we can.
Great. Okay, so everybody, hi, my name is Keith Belanger. I am the field CTO at DataOps.live. I personally am located in New Hampshire, so on the opposite side of the country from Seattle, and I am just north of Boston. Um, on a good day, I'm about 50 minutes north of Boston. On a busy traffic day, I'm close to 2 hours north of Boston. I also co-lead the Boston Snowflake user group as well. I've been in the data and analytics place for in 2026, it'll make it 30 years. I started my career in 1996, primarily doing Kimball. I was trained by Ralph Kimball, and then eventually I learned also Data Vault. About 15 of those years, I was the lead senior data architect for a Fortune 100 insurance company. I've been working with Snowflake for about 7 years. I've worked on about 10 or so Snowflake implementations. And I've been a Snowflake data superhero for 3 years. So I'm happy to be here and share a little bit of my experience with everybody. So when it comes to Snowflake and data engineering, I think we all know Snowflake has a very large plethora of capabilities and solutions. And this slide is probably already outdated because you can no longer keep up with everything that Snowflake seems to be doing these days. But the biggest question is it has all this capabilities, but how do you operationalize that? I know we do a lot of stuff in demos and we play and we go into Snowsite, but many organizations require kind of like a DevOps type of process for managing, right? Infrastructure as code, and we can even say Snowflake objects as code. And you see at the very bottom of this diagram, Snowflake provides a lot of parts and pieces to make this work, but it doesn't all come naturally stitched together. And it really puts some organizations in a bit of a challenge to bring those data ops capabilities to the table. So, as I just said, data ops is kind of a spin-off of DevOps, bringing the development practice into the data world, but data is a bit different than code for applications. Um, you know, it is said by 2025, even though we're coming to the end, a data engineering team guided by data ops practice. So even though our company is DataOps.live, data ops is also a practice, a methodology many organizations are doing, regardless of your technologies. Organizations that adopt data ops practices tend to be 10 times more productive. One of our customers here, Roche, was doing, say, they're very complex data products, one release every 3 months. With our data ops solution, they were going up to 120 releases a month. Gartner, this is a quote from Gartner, some studies this year. Without data ops, AI development suffers from inconsistent, low quality data, a lack of repeatable processes for scaling models into production. Now, I kind of talked about Snowflake brings a lot of the parts and pieces, and here I'm kind of showing articles and capabilities that Snowflake provides you to do kind of, I call it the DIY approach for data ops. You can They have Git integration. You can write GitHub actions. You can use their Snowflake trail and integrate with Slack or other things. And even you can see there's articles on how to write certain CLI type stuff to automate some of this stuff. But again, that becomes a DIY development for data practices. And data practices want to build data solutions. They want to be doing stuff with data, um, not necessarily all the back end stuff. but it's this necessary thing that has to be done. So if you're doing your DIY solution, you see that many organizations will start using a variety of tools. Could be an Airflow, could be a DBT, not cloud, but like say DBT. Now DBT projects are integrated with Snowflake, but there's Python and Airflow and all these other technologies, and then also APIs to kind of make it all happen. And what we tend to see is people do what we call good enough. They do just enough to get by, but typically it leaves a lot of gaps in a lot of the things I have here with governance and rollbacks and observability and the things there. So really what we're going to show you today is a solution that brings all of that to the table with no development, right? We have federated governance and enforcement, continuous observability, environment management, orchestration, logging and auditability, fully automated with AI assist, really requiring minimal to no human dependency to do that. So Angela kind of brought it up at the beginning. At the beginning of the year, Snowflake approached DataOps as a strategic partnership, and they did a large investment in us. And ultimately, what it is, they are seeing many of their Snowflake customers stalling on being able to adopt Snowflake because they might be in a highly regulated industry. They're really required to have auditing and all these other capabilities that need to be in place to get things into production. And that stops Snowflake adoption. You know, people aren't building stuff and getting things into Snowflake. So Snowflake approached us about, hey, you guys have a great solution. We want our customers to be able to use this without having to do large procurement, large amounts of money, and all that other stuff, and have it to them for free. And that's what I'm here to really show you today is that the solution we have is available to all Snowflake customers for you to use within your organization. And as I said, Snowflake has funded it, and basically everybody gets 500 free minutes a month. After that, you go into using Snowflake credits. So there's no like separate billing or anything like that. And you got to do quite a bit in here before you're getting up to your 500 minutes. And if you really start that, people would be in touch with you if you start getting close to that. But it's a pretty big number of minutes for you to be doing a lot of stuff in Snowflake before you're reaching that. So really what I'm here to demonstrate for you today is that capability that you can get started with for free. One thing to also to note, DataOps.live is leveraged by over 1,200, I think it's close to 1,500 Snowflake sales engineers today. So Snowflake is probably the largest user of DataOps.live out there. And because Snowflake also has to provision Snowflake. So if you're a sales engineer, they might not be provisioning tool solutions for a necessary for the business, but they're doing demonstrations. They're doing things with Snowflake. So they need to provision a Snowflake account. They might need to get tables, data loaded, RBACs created. So with DataOps.live, they build it once and then they can deploy it any way they want. They can collaborate together. So I could be a sales engineer and I like what Keith did, but I want to add one additional thing to it. I can basically copy that over, add something, and I have my own data product. So we find existing customers are using this. They're able to test, run, debug in seconds, not minutes. They can get started right away. There's nothing to install. It all comes automatically. We'll kind of go through that process. We're seeing 10x developer productivity, instant developer onboarding. So you can easily add people of your team. If you're a large company, it doesn't matter. We don't care if there's 1 or 100 people using the solution from within your organization, and a reduction of 50% of their time to getting things into production. So here I have a screenshot and I'll kind of share that link, in a bit. If you go to DataOps.live's website, we have on there, get started, get for free. It'll take you to here. And you kind of have two options. You can put it on an active Snowflake account, but it'll ask you as a user trying to do this would have to have account admin capabilities. If you do not have the ability to create new roles and not many people do. So people usually who want to do that, we say get in touch with it. We can help you because a lot of people have SSO and other things, and we want to make sure that when you're installing it, your security and stuff is proper. However, you can also kick the tires and play with it on a trial account. So if you go to DataOps.live's website, um, and you go and say get started for free, you can get right underway with the product. So, but again, that's enough show and tell. Let's get to the real meat and potatoes of really what we want to see here. So as you can see here, this is the DataOps.live website. I come here, say get my free 500 minutes monthly, and you come here and you can basically get underway. So um, but let's get into the actual hands-on lab. So those of you who are watching the video and not participating here live, you won't be able to do this particular lab because it's for people that are here. But you can still, with what I just showed, with you going and adding it to a Snowflake account, a trial Snowflake account, could do the exact same thing that we're going to show here. For the lab, I'm starting with a particular Snowflake account that's provisioned specifically for here today. What I'm going to do is just quickly go over into that account. So this account has,
Oh.
you have a question, Angel?
No, I can go in though, correct, and get started opening
Yes.
up the lab.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. You should be able to, well, you don't even have to, yeah, if for now, like I haven't even opened up the actual lab. I just clicked on the URL and went into Snowflake. So you've got your username and your password
Okay,
but the lab instructions, if I click on it, they
okay,
also have, how to log in and the Snowflake account information there as well.
perfect. Thanks.
Now, we're here in the Snowflake account, we have a database called DataOps.lab, DataOps Lab Prod. You could have, however your databases are. The one thing about DataOps Live, your environment management, it can manage that um, for you. So you can see here, I have prod already, but when you start using DataOps.live, you could create your environment. So if some people have a QA, a pre-prod, a non-prod, a dev, um, we can establish all that, and we leverage zero copy cloning. We do ephemeral environments. So if you have 10 data teams, one data team, whatever it is, you could then have feature branches for all of your different teams, and they're getting zero copy clones and then merging. All of that is 100% managed by DataOps Live. Nothing you have to create. So as you can see here, I just created there's a prod database, and that's all I need. Everything else after that is handled. So we have this existing Snowflake database. So what I'm going to do is say, well, how do I take DataOps.live and get started with the database I already have underway? And that's kind of what we're going to get do in the process, is to sit there and say, we're going to establish our CI/CD pipeline by first getting all the metadata out of Snowflake and establishing that foundation so that our CI/CD environment and DataOps environment mirrors our Snowflake account. So I'm going to go back into the lab, and you can see log in and get ready to build, which we just did. When I go to the next step, and we're going to be getting started with dynamic delivery. We do have another solution called dynamic transformation. Just to kind of quickly talk about what that is if you're a DBT core company, use DBT core, or you're leveraging DBT cloud, this allows you to migrate this in. This was very popular before Snowflake projects, DBT projects came into Snowflake. This was our way of converting it and using it so you could do DBT into Snowflake within our environment. But today we're going to be doing dynamic delivery. So I'm going to say, let's get started with dynamic delivery. Now, one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to go through a wizard called our create process. So I'm going to say click here to get started with the exercise. What this is going to do is now bring me into DataOps Live. And we have a variety of wizards, and you can see some of the other breadth. We had dynamic transformation if you're doing a Snowflake native app, analytics, so other things that you could explore and do on your own. Again, everything here is free and for you to use up to 500 minutes. For this exercise, we're going to click on dynamic delivery. So I'm going to click here, with dynamic. Now, like I said, the first thing we want to do is to establish our DataOps environment to mirror Snowflake. Now, so what we're going to do is a group. What a group is, if you could be maybe a large organization, you might have different business users, different departments doing different things. In data ops, you can organize things relative to your organization. Maybe you have, US and then you have a Europe, and they're completely different things. Well, that could be two different groups. So for to think today, I have just a group called, Keith Internal, which I'm just going to use that. But I worked for a company that called it Orion, or they called it something else, right? They gave it a name of their own initiative. The next is you have a data product. And a data product by definition could be different for everybody. The way I kind of like to say it is think of it as a database. Maybe you're doing medallion, bronze, silver, gold. The data product could be the bronze layer, the silver layer, the gold layer. You might have other names that you want to give it. Maybe you're doing, this is marketing goal. But again, the data product is kind of like I'm going to kind of organize that into that. So for here, we'll just call it, I'll call it the gold. I'll call it gold Seattle for today. Now, few options you get here is you might have DDL. You want to just try that. Or for this case, we have a Snowflake account already. So here you can already see that I have the Snowflake account already connected. So I'm going to click on that. And if you don't, you can also you can connect it to any Snowflake. So some organizations have multiple Snowflake. You can just use username, password, key pair, OAuth, and connect to that Snowflake account. And here for our lab, we were given at the beginning a username and a password to leverage. So we're going to use that, and we're going to continue with that. So now what's happening is DataOps is looking into that Snowflake account. And in this case, it found two databases, right? So if I go back to Snowflake, right, we had two databases. Well, obviously, we have the Snowflake database, but that one is sample. But you see, we have two databases, and that's exactly what we have here, the two. So for the sake of this exercise in this data product, we're going to use this database, the DataOps Lab production one. Now, what it's going to do is take a little deeper of a dive. We're going to look and say, well, what schemas are in there? And it sees that there's two schemas. Now, if you wanted to, within a schema, maybe you only want to bring back certain data structures or tables or views. You can go and start cherry picking things within the database that you want. But for the sake of this exercise, I'm just going to bring everything in the default schema in. Now, what you see on the left-hand side is what's inside Snowflake. What you see on the right-hand side is what's going to go into my Gold Seattle data product repository inside DataOps.live, right? So we're going to take the metadata for here and we're going to establish basically a Git repo of everything that is in that database. And so we're just going to click continue. Now what's happening again is it's now pulling all of that metadata out of Snowflake and into DataOps. And you can see in the lower right, it's kind of swirling. While that's swirling, I'm also getting this. We have our AI assist. So if you ever get stuck and you want to do something, you can always ask our AI assist, like, how do I do this? How do I do that? This is not an agentic AI. This is just like a Copilot AI assist. You can ask it questions. It'll tell you how to do things within the product. But like I said, it's not going to do anything from an agentic perspective. All right, let's close that. So now we're back here. It's now telling us it's built that infrastructure as code configuration, and you're ready to do. Now you'll see here dry run. What a dry run means is it pulled that metadata, and what it now wants to do is do a dry run test to test that it has everything that's there. And what it's really going to do in the background, and we'll show it to you, is it's going to do a zero copy clone of production and deploy what it just reverse engineered out into that zero copy clone. This way we can have two environments to compare and make sure that our foundation that we're setting is a match to what we really have. So let's do that dry run. And then I can say here, congratulations, we've done it. Let's go view the pipeline. So now what we're doing, we're inside DataOps. we're inside. We can see here our gold Seattle. That was the name of our data product. Maybe you have a silver layer or you have a different name, but in that um, data in that project, we can see everything here. We have our repository, merge request, issues, pipelines, and we can see here that our pipeline is running, right? And what it's doing is it's, like I said, it's doing that zero copy cloning. It's going to do the setup of Snowflake. Did you have a question, Angela? Sorry.
Uh, I was supposed to click develop rather than open Snowflake, right?
On develop, on where
Uh,
it, sorry, I'm trying to figure out where you're at.
let's see. Let me on the dry run after that, it said go to develop or go to Snowflake. And I did
Um,
open develop.
yeah, open develops. Oh, you
Okay.
open develop. No, at the top I said view pipeline.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Never mind.
Yeah, we're going to go into develop in a little bit. That's where develop is where you develop. If you want to, when you start ready to develop new stuff, um, that's where develop. We'll go there in a minute. All I did is click view pipeline,
Sorry.
which
Okay.
then brought me to here. No, no problem. Right. So what's happening here in this pipeline is it's provisioning, doing everything we said. It's going to um, do the zero copy clone and then deploy everything that we reverse engineered. Right. Well, that pipeline, and again, auditability, right, is in logging. If I click on these pipelines, it tells us everything that it's doing, right, in the background. This is all documentation that automatically you get of what's going on in the background. So, again, I've done no development, nothing. It's all just running. And if I was to go look up set up Snowflake, also in here, it's telling us, it's executing the runner and all that other stuff that's going on there. Now, if we was to go back, if I go into Snowflake, right, and I refresh Snowflake, we now see Data Ops Gold Seattle feature branch Gold Seattle, right? What this did is it did a zero copy clone, right, of our production environment, which isn't very big because we're doing the demo. It's got 3 tables, and it did a zero copy clone. And now we can really see if it has the same thing, right? So picture this in your environment of working. Um, I when I was um before I was at DataOps.live, I was consulting and implement. I used DataOps.live, and we had agile squads. And what was great about this, if in one agile, eventually all these squads merged together to production. But at the development perspective, every squad was working on their sprints, working on different tables or different Snowflake capabilities. You would see these feature branches, and they would be like the names of the sprint, like Sprint 32, Sprint 35, whatever it might be. All this stuff in Snowflake going on, and DataOps is managing all of that stuff. So here we can see now we have the feature branch, which is a kind of a zero copy clone environment, um, and a deployment of what we did with that reverse engineering. So I'm going to go back into the pipelines. So we can see here with our pipeline that these two, they got the green checkbox. That means they both ran. Now you'll see here that something says tear down Snowflake. Again, we did those zero copy clones, but we don't want them to be out there forever. So in an organization, when you eventually merge it up, some people will sit there and say, we'll tear it down after 7 days. That can all be automated, changed however you want. For the lab today, I can tear it down when I'm done with it, when I'm ready. Now, one thing I want to show you is that it does have like the Git repository, right? So in that repository, we have our main branch and we do have the Gold Seattle branch that we just did. And if I go into the folder Gold Seattle and I go to Snowflake and I go to the database and the schema, I can then see at the table level, here's all the YAML. So in our repository, the stuff's not in SQL, it's in YAML. It's converted in the deployment process from YAML to SQL. So here I have a YAML representation of what was inside Snowflake. And again, that is in that repository. So everything from the branches, the commits, all that other stuff. So if I go back up a level, if I wanted to create a new feature branches, merge requests, all that stuff, all right here, able to be done. If I want to create new tests, anything like that. So what we've done, right, is we've gotten the metadata from our production environment. We've established a baseline in our repository in a feature branch. We've deployed that into our feature branch, and we're pretty much sitting here, hey, I've got a pretty clean representation of what's inside Snowflake. Now I want to do something, right? And now we're going to kind of go into the develop mode, right? And so what I'm going to do here over to the right, you see this little button that says develop. So if I click on develop, it's going to open up a um, new part of the application, right? Where it's basically going to come up. It's going to be a development environment. It's going to take a little bit of time because it's basically standing it up and it's going to start configuring it. Now, this is where even if you're doing DBT, you can do DBT stuff here. You can ultimately anything you want to do in Snowflake, you can kind of do it within here from a development perspective. So you can see right here, it's doing all the configurations and getting the environment ready. Once the environment is ready, then I'll take it to the next part of the demo. Now, what I'm doing now is bonus stuff. What I'm showing you here is not in the lab. Ultimately, the lab ended with we have a baseline CI/CD environment ready to start working. And that's kind of where the demo ended here. But I'm kind of going into extra credit bonus work at the moment. And the main reason is I want to kind of showcase some of the agentic AI stuff that we have now in DataOps. What's great about this is that not every Snowflake developer is a Snowflake expert. You might not have done an S3 stage, or you might have not done RBAC stuff, or you may not have done certain things in Snowflake. And so coding that might take time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to initiate our agentic. The name of our agentic AI is Metis. Now, what I can do in here is I'm going to say, I know in the database, right? We're looking at the database, there's a customer table, and in there is a set of columns within that customer table. But now let's kind of come up with a scenario. My business now wants to capture customer eye color. We're going to have a little fun here, right? So if I was to say, I would like to add a new column to the customer table to capture the customer eye color and add that to the repository, to the feature branch in the repository. So that's all I'm going to give it for information. You can see down here in the lower left, it says architect mode. Let me see if I can make things a little bit bigger here. Blow this up so that we have a little bit more on screen and it's not in this, very fine print. So
Yeah, that's
basically,
nice.
so here the first thing it's going to do in architect mode is architect. It's going to architect the solution. And in doing that, it's also going to ask me questions if it needs answers, right? So let's just get that underway. And so what it's going to do is going to take that request and it's going to think out. I did hit it, right? Did I hit delete? Let's try this again. Oh, there it goes. I'm like, what happened? I know I hit enter. So it's at the top, and now you're going to hear it thinking out loud, and you can start seeing what's going to start doing. It's kind of, I find this always interesting. It's assessing the table, what's in there, and then it's going to start asking us questions, right? So it says, oh, eye color, brown, it's saying, do you want varchar 20, varchar 10? What do you want? What do you want to do? Let's go with the varchar 20 scenario.
Yeah, it's got to do its planning. So,
Right. So it's going to do all of its, and this is, like I said, it's a very simple request. It's telling us what it's going to do, right? It's going to check
mhm.
the Git branch, create, um,
Oh, it's like if it's doing it from scratch, so to
yep.
speak.
Yeah, so it's going to say we're going to name it. So here, what's interesting, see how it
Hmm.
says C underscore eye color? If I go back to the database, you see all the columns were prefixed with C.
Hmm.
I didn't tell it to do that. It just kind of said, hey,
Hmm.
I see what the other ones are. I should follow that, right?
Hmm.
It says I analyzed it, da 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 da. Yes, I'm just going to say implement as planned. But
Hmm.
it asks, like, do you want like data type constraints or anything like that? We're going to keep it simple here. Now it's going to
It,
have me run certain commands for it just because it does it. It's going to say, do you want me
mm,
um, to do this stuff? And I'm just going to hit yes
mhm,
when it tells me to run something. And you can see everything from a developer side, what it's also running on the right hand side. Now, again, what
okay.
it's doing is it's not just doing the code, right? It's documenting and auditing everything it's doing. You can see it here, right? Um, when it's going to come
Hmm.
to the readmes and all of that stuff. So, I mean, people say, well, Keith, this is a simple alter statement, right? You can just go alter table, put it in. But again, it's getting it all ready for auditability, um, into the repository, and then deploying it um, out into the environment. Now you can see it's out of architect mode. It's now in coding mode, right? And it's actually doing the development.
Mhm.
And again, it does
So it's also
everything
doing stuff in the script too that to take care of it in kind of the deployment of the
exactly because
CI/CD activities too, not
yeah,
just
because
add
I
the
told
column in the YAML. Yeah.
correct
Mhm.
because I told it to basically get it into the repository in the feature branch. Now, if I wanted to, I didn't do it. I could have told it to deploy it, right? I could have said
Mhm.
and deploy it, but I didn't do
Mhm.
that. I just said
Mhm.
put it into the repository.
Okay.
Um, Now, this is a very simple thing. We've done, creating external stages, right? And loading files and all, which
Mhm.
is great because I've done an external stage like once every other year, right? And,
Mhm.
and I'm like, how
Mhm.
do I do that?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, you can see here everything on the right-hand side of what it's doing.
Sweet.
And so you can see here the commit was successful. Now I'll push the feature branch to the remote repository.
And
So
then
with
this will
that,
just run on the next schedule. All this will
when I
just be there.
correct. Now, here our pipelines are manually run, but you could put them on a schedule, right?
Okay.
You know, it really is up to you in terms of
Hmm.
like what you want to do as an organization. And then once this is done, I'll kind of go back into um, so now it's telling me if this wants to create a new file, customer eye color feature. It eventually does like the documentation. We'll go back into the repository and see all of the stuff that it did
So the new file, the .md, is for doing that particular action.
to
Like
that
you say,
action.
following the audit of that action. Here's the script that was run for.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now
I
it's
like
telling us
that.
what it did, right? Database
Hmm.
change, the Git workflow, the documentation, the technical implementation, the next step, right? And now it's basically done. Do you want to start a new task? I could do something else, right? So I'm going to ask it, so is this, so has this been synced? I can't spell
That's why.
with the repository.
Oh, because it might not have committed it.
Yeah, I mean it does, but I'm just going to ask it. So it's going to
Oh.
verify, right?
Oh,
It,
okay.
and it
Okay.
actually looks like it's going to run it again,
Oh.
right? Just like
Uh-huh.
API request. I see the document. It says it, right? So I create it has been committed, yet let me add the
Mm.
commit documentation to the file. So it's actually doing the
Documentation now.
it's that same file. It's basically doing the same thing it had already done. Um,
But doing a verify.
yeah.
Okay.
Then
Yeah, there are a lot of companies that, every time they add a column or remove a column, it's a different JIRA ticket with audit reasoning behind it. You have to justify
Yeah,
everything.
you have to. I mean, we do have organizations that associate the stuff that it's doing here to a JIRA ticket. You can integrate
Hmm.
this with JIRA, right?
Mm,
So that you can make sure, hey, the JIRA ticket came from this person in the business, right?
hmm.
And this change that was done inside DataOps was done by Keith, right? And
Mm,
then I can set up there. I'll go and I'll show you in the approved. So that's that's done. If I go back now into the repository and we'll give this a refresh here, right? We'll start seeing that I should now, if I go into the Gold Seattle,
hmm.
go to Snowflake. Sometimes it's I gotta refresh it here. Repositories, Gold Seattle, Snowflake. Why is it not refreshing? It told me it was here.
It
I
was
did
this
it.
table, right?
I did. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
did this before did the thing. I'm like, I want to
Hmm.
make sure it's gonna run. Um, yeah, let me go back to.
Do some basic troubleshooting.
I know it's like a refresh thing because I did so
Hmm.
because it's. I know it's been updated.
Because it's going kind of between the environments of DataOps.live, Git, and Snowflake.
Well, right now nothing's been given to Snowflake,
Snowflake.
right? Because
Oh,
I
this is
have
just the
not to
repository.
run the repository. I haven't run
Okay.
the pipeline yet, right? So
Okay.
we should see. Um, I'm just not. Why am I not seeing the tables refreshed?
Yeah, that was 18 minutes ago.
I just did. I mean, I did this really ago. I'm gonna yell at it.
Hmm.
I am not seeing it in the repo.
Oh, that's kind of cool. You'll ask it that.
I know some of this stuff you can also
Oh.
get it to automatically, like right now I'm having it run, but you can get
Hmm.
it so that just go, don't ask me everything type of thing.
Oh, okay.
Repository listing confirms that the feature branch is indeed present in the remote repository. Let me verify.
Has it been committed?
Sync.
Okay.
Try refreshing the page. So
Yeah.
it's seeing it. Well, what am I not seeing?
Yeah, it says it was committed. So just after the documentation. So
So let's go back to files, repository, Gold Seattle, Snowflake, data ops, schema. I mean, I know it. Why are you not refreshing?
are you going to the right location here in DataOps Live?
Yeah, this is where it should be.
Hmm.
Let's see, because I only
Oh,
have
what about merge
right
the
right there.
request up there at the
Sorry,
top?
there it is. I found it.
Okay.
It
Oh, a
created a
feature
new feature
branch.
branch. Yeah.
That was,
So it did. I was looking at it made a brand new feature
mm,
branch. Might have been just the way I worded it. So yeah, it
hmm.
created a new feature branch, and now in that Gold Seattle Snowflake, and I'm like, I know I've done this. I
Yeah,
think
and
when I
then
did it
up,
before, I said in the existing feature branch.
yeah.
But now if I go to the Gold
Hmm.
the customer template, right, we
Hmm.
have eye
Hmm.
color, right?
Yeah, and if
That's
you
been
scroll to
created.
the top of this page, you can then create this, you do a merge
Merge
request to merge
request.
this into the main one. Okay.
Exactly. And if I was to go
Hmm.
now to our CI/CD pipelines, right, I could run the pipeline. Like I'd have to go do the merge request, like you said, right?
Hmm.
Once I do the merge request, I can then run the pipeline. And when you go to
Hmm.
run a pipeline, I don't know if it'll do it here. Um, but you could start getting into, let's just do one. Let's see how
Yeah.
it goes.
Yeah.
I
Go
don't know.
for it.
So
Yeah.
here you could see it already did the description, right? Added eye
Hmm.
color. I
Hmm.
could add other members. Like who might need to do the approvals, the reviewers, the label, like all of that stuff that
Mm-hmm.
you might require. Like Keith developed it, but my senior
Right.
architect needs to
Code reviews.
approve it,
Yeah.
right? Right. So let's create the merge request. Um, and what's interesting is it's going to do all of the documentation. You can see automatically the AI is just, hi, I'm
Mm-hmm.
working on generating the summary of the changes, learn more. So I'm not doing anything. It's
Wow.
automatically populating all of my documentation and descriptions based on what we did. So if you look at the amount of hours and time you're saving by
Mm-hmm.
not having, and what happens is people skip this, right? They're
Yeah.
like, just get it into production, just get it into production. And
Mm-hmm.
you could always edit this, but it's kind of doing 90% of the work for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Yeah.
now
If
I
you have to
lost you.
audit, this is great.
Right.
So
So
now
now
you're going to do, yeah.
we're ready to do the merge,
Mm-hmm.
right? And did merge by Keith Belanger. Now we should have um, a pipeline that's ready to go. So if I go into my pipelines, and I think I did. Did I go far enough into the? I lost my track of thought where I was
Uh,
in the
now,
merge
now you're in
request.
main of your
Oh, so I haven't gotten
branch.
far enough into the merge request. It's not
Okay.
here. Merge requests, main.
Gold Seattle.
Where did my merge requests go?
It was just back on that last page. Uh, let's see, this, uh, one more back.
By color, clone, feature merge. Right here, this is it.
Uh, hit the back button a couple times, I think. And one more. And one more. Uh,
Merge
oh,
branch.
what if you click over on branches to the left? Was that where you were at?
Tell I don't do this deployment every day into
Right.
um
Oh, and
because
then
the
did it merge
inventory.
it to gold or would it have merged it to main?
I think it might have merged it up to the gold one.
Okay.
But anyways, you would
Mm-hmm.
let's see if we could do merge target branch. I just want to deploy this branch.
Yeah, so back on the last page, don't you pick it from the drop down? Yeah, it's like source branch. So this will take gold like into main. Cause oh, did it put it in main and you want to put it in gold? Seattle?
I want to put Gold Seattle into main,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Create the merge request.
Yep, that merged.
And then now we should be able to have a pipeline to run. I don't know if it's because this one. I'm sorry, I've confused myself, so I don't know what's merging where. But anyways, but you can see it has
Yep.
documentation of everything that
Mm-hmm.
we've done. Um, and so again, it's going to initialize it, and then it should go into eventually the Snowflake deploying that to Snowflake. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, that's really so. Like I said, we did a very simple change, and we have all the documentation, right? So we'll go into the repository, right? Here's the documentation on that new that new thing that we've done. So
Yeah. Wow.
if you're in a regulated organization, right, healthcare, I was in financial services, the amount of time we used to run trying to get documentation for audits and stuff like that. Now you have everything, right? Now we have the merge requests that
Hmm.
um, so yeah, and then obviously that's been documented as well. So yeah, so that's you know everything that's here that we kind of got diverted a bit, but everything that you see here is available to all Snowflake customers, right?
Hmm.
You have up to 500 minutes a month of development. Now, with that agentic, we did a lot in a couple of minutes, right? So you're gonna not burn as many minutes doing all of that stuff manually. But it really is a great way to add capabilities to your organization. Again, with you didn't buy Airflow, you didn't buy GitLabs, you didn't get Terraforms
Hmm.
and do custom Git actions and all that other stuff. You connected it to your Snowflake
Hmm.
environment. And like I said, for the most part, just about everything inside Snowflake, some people will create um, a project. So like Gold Seattle is the project. Some people will do like account level stuff like their RBAC and other things in one project. So managing your RBAC, um, managing if you're doing common like tags, policies, and things like that. They might do it in one. So you could really, if I go into the higher levels of data ops, you could have groups. It's a little bit different for us because we do it for different scenarios, but you just think it could be like, hey, this is the US warehouse, this is the Europe warehouse, or however an
Hmm.
organization, this is the financial services, this is the retail. And then when you start going into it, so if I have I'll just go in my Keith uh, internal. I'm gonna go a different way here.
Of what
Internal.
we were just running, did it charge minutes while we were doing our development or only while something was executing?
While we're doing our development and the execution,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So the clock is running when you're. So what's great about the agentic stuff is that um, you're using a lot less wall clock to
Oh,
do a lot more
yeah.
stuff, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Now, like some people will do their development like in DDL or using Snowsite, and then when they come in here, you could just basically say, you know, here's the DDL already. I've done the code.
Mm.
A lot of people did that before because they didn't have agentic and they want to burn the minutes. They would just use Snowsite.
Mm.
But now with the agentic, like I'm like, why am I going to write SQL and
Mm.
look for missing
Hmm.
stuff that I can just
Well, yeah.
um I know I have a kind of somewhat of an example. Like, so I had like, so here you could see Gold Seattle's the one we created, right? But I have like this one, like Orion platform. I could go in there and say bronze, silver, gold, common. You could
Mm.
really um, kind of set this up, an enterprise, like I did this one enterprise platform. I have bronze, silver under my bronze layer. I have bronze, my
Hmm.
CRM system, my point of sale system, SAP, native app. This is all source system stuff, right? So I'm building my
Mm.
databases for capturing my source systems. Maybe my silver layer, right? I've broken that out by integration, by customer, my gold layer. So all of these have their own repo. All
Hmm.
of these have their own users, right? You might have
Hmm.
developers that are doing stuff and not others. So you could really organize this to best match your company and your organization because you know each one of these is the equivalent of what we just did for Gold Seattle, right? Um, and have all of that history, all of that documentation available to you.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's the demo. Like I said, if I encourage people the best way to do it um, is activate it on a trial account, right? Kick the tires. Or if you're an organization, some organizations have Snowflake organizations, right?
Hmm.
That have they'll have a sandbox account, Snowflake account, not their
Hmm.
primary. You know, I really encourage people, though I would love for you to go and activate it on your primary. Um, like put it someplace where you can kick the tires and try this, try that. What about this? What about that? Um, Also in here, you'll see, remember I told you about this little co-pilot. If you click
Mm-hmm.
on that, one thing there is an option if you do get stuck, um, you c- our it, you can it used to say maybe because I haven't let me do a new chat. Um, it says here, do you want to schedule 15 minutes with customer success? If you get stuck and you want to talk with somebody on our team, we're
Mm.
more than happy to
Oh,
help
wow.
you out, right? So or if you want to participate in a hands-on lab, another one,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
you can schedule a hands-on lab or schedule
Mm-hmm.
15 minutes with one of our customer success people. We all we want to do is make people successful. We know there's a lot here. And if you're not familiar, I mean, Angela, you seem to be very
Mm-hmm.
familiar with the Git
Mm.
structures and the merging. If you're not, we're happy to help you
Oh,
out
yeah.
as well. So again, just have the schedule 15 minutes with our customer success and I'm always here for feedback, comments, whatever we can do. We know this is a complex solution because just so much you can do. We want to help people, whether it's with videos, helping you on a phone, whatever it
Mm.
is to get the most out of it. But again, it's free. There's nothing stopping, they're not going to get
Yeah.
a procurement or, other things like that. But
And then what other interaction can the folks that sign up for this expect or kind of look to for your data ops folks? Just kind of an initial kind of get started, get set up. Is that if it's needed, I assume that you would be able to do that. Otherwise, they could just
oh,
be off and running.
yeah, I mean, like I said, don't hesitate to use schedule 15 minutes with
Okay.
our folks. They will jump on with you. I
Mm-hmm.
tell people crawl, walk, run. Manage a database and a schema. Like just
Mm-hmm.
start with that, and then you can grow from there.
Mm-hmm.
We do have some videos on YouTube on some more complex stuff, but even
Mm-hmm.
with the customer success folks, um, they they have seen and done everything in Snowflake
Mm-hmm.
and with this. And like I said, our some of our largest customers, we have like AstraZeneca, we have Disney,
Mm-hmm.
we have that are
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot with this. So this they're doing some really advanced stuff. So our team is more than helpful, willing
Mm-hmm.
to help people be successful. So if you are stuck, don't
Mm-hmm.
hesitate to reach out. And then they also know when you sign up for the not the hands-on lab for free in your account, they know and they can see what you're not see what you're doing, they can see that you're active, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll sit there and say they were active, but they're not active anymore. What happened? Right? They
Mm-hmm.
might reach out and say, is there anything I can do to help? They will be very, very forthcoming. Again, there's nothing to buy, so there's no pressure sales because you're not buying anything. They're
Mm-hmm.
contacting you because they want you to be successful and they want to help.
Or if you're
Because like I said,
overusing it, you're going past your
you're
spend and things like
you're
that. Yeah.
you're not even gonna come. If people are trust me, if you're getting close to the 500 minutes, they'll be in touch with you far. If you're in there and they start
Mm-hmm.
seeing that you're at 20, 30 minutes, one, they'll be excited. And then the next thing they'll
Mm-hmm.
be saying is, but what are they doing? Is it a good 30 minutes
Yeah.
or is it like,
Make sure they're
but
effective with the use and they're doing well.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Good.
Because again,
Mm-hmm.
we want people to get the most out of
Mm-hmm.
it. And the same thing is,
Mm-hmm.
oh, and then also with us, is there's anything like, hey, that would make for a great video, or that would make for a good document, or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But all I could say
Okay.
is don't hesitate. And I'm always, if in doubt, reach out to me.
Okay.
And
And would you
I'm
take
on LinkedIn.
would you take
Yep.
just a couple of minutes and speak to what your plan is about around DBT in Snowflake
Yeah.
projects?
I mean, absolutely. Well, one thing for folks to know, I mean, is that our product, DataOps.live, the foundation if of develop and what we're in there is DBT core, right? We leverage DBT core in the background. A lot of the stuff that's going on is DBT core. Um, if you, well, first I'll say we are just as much in the waiting of what the Hex 5 trend going to do, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are in the waiting game. If you're using Snowflake DBT projects, now, one thing about Snowflake DBT projects, it doesn't have unless you start integrating and building the Git integrations on all that other stuff yourself, um, we can help manage the Snowflake DBT projects as well, right?
Mm,
So our folks are very, very experienced with DBT. I mean, I could even go in here and say, create me a DBT model, and it would happily do it.
hmm
Because you can see here, right? There's the DBT, right? So if I click on that, I'm going to get right into DBT. So, it's a our team is very, very DBT centric. So whether you're using DBT Cloud, DBT Core, or Snowflake DBT projects, you can
hmm
manage it through everything we just showed in the CI/CD process. Um,
Wow.
we'll do the DBT lineage, the documentation, um, all of that stuff. So you don't, and if you're not using DBT and you're saying using um, a Matillion or anything else, we also
hmm
have, and I don't really have anything to demonstrate it here, we have orchestrators. So if you have to say, hey, I built this open flow, so I built something with open flow and I bring my data
hmm
in, and then after the open flow runs, I want to do this Matillion job. We can orchestrate third-party tools as well. We can orchestrate data governance tools. So maybe after this data loads, you want to do something with Calibra,
Oh, wow.
right? you the thing is what's called data ops. So data operations, right, is
Mm-hmm.
is development. If you want to write tests, I can even ask that AI. We just did that eye color. Build me 5 tests to test eye color, right?
Oh,
And it
wow.
will. And then that'll
Hmm.
be part of your pipeline. So, because data ops is about data policies, testing,
hmm
orchestration. So everything.
Governance. Hmm
Yeah. So running the tests, monitoring the pipelines. So again, it could be data coming in from an open flow. Maybe you're running maybe a dynamic table has been doing something. Then you want to do a DBT job, and then you want to orchestrate a third party data quality tool. You can do all of that, like to say, all within here, managing across your Snowflake ecosystem, right? And
hmm
doing all it. So instead of I'm going to go buy all of these different tools and then make them all work together.
hmm
You can do that all within here. So if you're not comfortable with writing testing scripts for testing eye color, I could have asked it to, add, 3 tests for eye color into the pipeline when the right. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure it's red, blue, green. That's what my business says it should be. Great. Let's test for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
Okay.
you could be very, like I said, it's very, very powerful, but with comes a
hmm
lot of power and flexibility is complexity as well, right?
hmm
So we don't want people to get stuck.
hmm
Give us a call and we can endeavor. But I can tell you from personal experience, like I said, I was a consultant. I used data ops consulting before it was free. I would convince the customer I was working at, you need to make this purchase because if not, the I would spend 3 months of a team of people to try to build our own way of, and sometimes I was like, oh, let's go get
Oh, yeah.
third
Oh,
party tools and stitch them all
yeah.
together with
Gee.
API and scripting. And 3 months
Yeah.
later, we have a somewhat, I used to call it good enough solution. The first time I
hmm
found this, as I went onto projects, as a consultant, this was one of my first recommendations. And again, we just do Snowflake, so our team is 100%. Our
hmm
founder is a Snowflake data superhero. I'm a Snowflake data
hmm
superhero. We are tightly, I don't want to say necessarily integrated because we're not integrated, but we have a good relationship with the Snowflake
hmm
product team. We meet with
hmm
them regularly. So when they have new capabilities, when they're in private preview and when new stuff, we're usually helping test and doing things so that once they're out in production, we're not surprised that you can manage those Snowflake capabilities, right? So
Wonderful.
Snowflake intelligence example, you
hmm
can manage Snowflake intelligence in here with the semantic layer. And so again, as you're deploying an agent, how do you put that agent in a feature branch and into dev, test, QA, prod, so that you're testing out the agents and stuff like that. So yeah.
That's awesome. I'm really excited to see not just what um, this has, but also just how well you guys are going to incorporate those future features and AI and ML pieces in here, which I can tell you're probably going to roadmap it in here as well.
Yeah, I mean everything. You can even manage, Snowpark container services if people want to do things with containers.
Mm,
Streamlit,
mm,
you can manage and build Streamlit apps. We have a very large release coming up. I don't know if I think it's to be something like Q1, which is called DataOps Momentum. The entire UI is changing. We're very much going to an AI centric
mm,
way of working. Um, and we know a lot of organizations, so that's you can use AI to build AI, right? So
mhm.
I mean, what I showed is kind of like a drop in the water of what we're really planning to do.
Wow.
Everything's going to be modernized in terms of the UI and the capability. Again, we're finding with our customers that their business customers are looking to go faster, but
Mhm.
faster doesn't mean you can't give up quality, right?
Right.
So, how do you go
Yeah.
faster? Well, you have to automate, and so how do you
Mhm.
automate? Well, and stuff like that. So it was
Is there,
definitely on the. Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, sorry, sorry to interrupt. So is there any place I go in here to see the documentation?
Yeah. So let me go back to.
Because that was a great feature for it to put all that together too. Um,
So if I go to the Gold Seattle,
mhm.
um, and I go to. Actually, let's go to the pipelines. Gonna see if I can. So you can see here job artifacts. You can download them,
Mm,
right? And go forever, right?
mm.
Um, I know those the README, and I haven't dug this deep. All of
Okay.
that
Okay.
documentation. I do know when you do um um I just saw DBT, like all the
Hmm.
DBT documentation is in here. So here
Oh, I
again,
see.
here's that
Okay.
iColor documentation, right?
Okay. Yeah, there, I think is what I was
Right.
kind of wanting to
It's
check.
yeah, it's in
Yeah.
so it
Okay.
created that.
Hmm.
Um There is also, if you, we're going to be having documentation on the lineage, right? So if you're doing
Mm,
like a DB, if it's in here, like a DBT job, and then you've done like a dynamic table, and then you're doing,
hmm.
um, other things,
Iceberg.
you'll be able to see all
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Iceberg. Right now we are in, kind of a private preview with Iceberg. We're working with one of our customers to, um, get that in place. It's definitely brought different challenges because it's not 100% Snowflake, right? You got to manage some of the stuff in an AWS account. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you're, say, for example, this particular client we're working with is doing stuff with Cloudera, believe it or not, right?
Hmm.
So even though we don't manage like a Databricks and a Cloudera, we have to somewhat reach into that because if you're doing an iceberg table and they're writing, so you have to do certain levels of connecting to the other solutions. So we are in private preview right now with iceberg tables. That
Hmm.
you'll be able to manage iceberg tables in here as well. Snowflake intelligence, all the stuff in Cortex. Um,
Wow. Yeah.
you can do, like I said, RBAC management, uh, the governance. And if you're ever in doubt, like I said,
Yeah, I love that you can do
you click
RBAC.
this right, you can come to this, and I can say, can I manage are back with you.
Hmm.
And then, yes, you can, right? And it'll tell
Yeah, it'd
you
be cool if it gave
what to do.
instructions. Yeah.
And so to give you instructions, but in our
Yeah.
next release, or actually, I bet you I could go back to the develop,
Hmm.
right? And if I went back in here,
Oh,
if
yeah.
I could say, let's
Oh,
manage the
apply these
RBAC.
security, yeah,
Yeah, like
roles. Yeah.
create me some tags, right? Or
Hmm.
things like
Hmm.
this.
Oh, nice.
Can
Yeah.
you create data policies? Yeah. So
Yeah, managing tagging is nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and this capability, like this is kind of like our first version of it, so it's not as
Mm,
pretty, but
mm,
our new UI and other things like
hmm.
that are going to be. But yeah, there's like I said,
Great.
if you want to manage stuff in Snowflake, um,
Hmm.
this is I guess is a lifesaver because I'll sit there and say I don't remember the exact syntax on how to do this or this. I'll come here.
That get action and that get
And
act. Yeah.
yeah, and I'll just
Yeah.
say, especially if it hasn't done something. But again, if the people, we have a lot of people that say, well, I already have something, right? They have their own Git actions.
Hmm.
But the problem is every time Snowflake comes with something new, you have to develop new Git actions, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
again, all of this stuff, we didn't even get into creating environments, right? In here because you could create, well, this is my dev, right? My
Well,
test, my
right.
QA, right? We just did a feature branch. Um, but you can configure your environments, right? And it'll manage it all for you. It'll make sure your security, so making sure when things deploy, changing the ownerships and all that other stuff. I'll tell you, the amount of hours I saved when I was consulting using this was tremendous. So,
Yeah, I can see that. Well, thank you very much, Keith, for joining us
no.
tonight here at the user group. Thanks for sharing your roadmap. We're looking forward to more great things out of DataOps Live. So,
Yeah, no, thanks for giving me the time. I know we were kind of all over the place, but again, don't
no,
hesitate to reach out to us, and kick the tires and let us know. The more feedback we get, the more effective and better we can make it. So
that was
again,
what was great about tonight was kicking the tires. Yep.
yes, great.
Hmm.
Well, thank you.